I'm going to get started. We're going to be joined by two really awesome guests. We have Juan, a Venezuelan connecting from Colombia. Awesome. Wanted to give everybody, firstly, a big thank you for tuning in on a Sunday. I guess depending on what country you're from, those tuning in from India, I guess it's a little bit later at night. Those of you from Central and South America, it's probably either late morning, maybe early afternoon. So really appreciate 5 p.m. on the dot here. Exactly. It's 11 a.m. on the dot here. So I'm going to jump right into it. We have a really excited session for all of you folks today. Let's jump into the quick agenda. So first and foremost, I'll do an introduction. I'll do a quick introduction of myself and our panelists. I see that we have one of our panelists, Alina, has tuned in already. So we're going to introduce you to Alina, and our second guest will hopefully be Charlie. So we'll do a quick background for the two of them. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick talk with each of them. So I'm going to have a chat with Alina and a chat with Charlie about their companies, the offices that they have in Canada, the roles that they're hiring for. I'm going to ask them for some tips for tech workers who are applying or trying to come to Canada. I'm going to ask them for tips on what they look for when people are applying, tips to improve resumes, all that good stuff. Then what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears. We'll have a little break, and then we're going to talk a little bit about immigration. So for those of you who know anything about me or about Visto, I'm an immigration lawyer, been practicing for over 5 years now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the immigration side of things. So getting a work permit to come to Canada, how that relates to permanent residence, all that kind of stuff will be covered as well. Vikram, have you introduce yourself? I'll introduce myself as part of the intro, just so that everybody knows the background of myself and the two guests. And then we're going to do a live Q&A. We're actually going to do a two-part Q&A. So after the Canadian tech company talk, we're going to do a Q&A specifically for our panelists, Alina and Charlie, talking about the employment side. Then we're going to let them go and enjoy the rest of their Sundays that they've dedicated a little bit of their time to us. Then I'm going to talk about immigration, and we'll do a live immigration Q&A afterwards. So we'll cover all of it. Omalara says, interesting. Nawaz says, hi. Hey, Nawaz, thanks for tuning in. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Really quick, so who we are. First and foremost, I'll introduce myself. My name is Josh. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Visto. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Visto. We build immigration technology. So if you've checked out our website prior to this, you might have seen some of our immigration platform that helps aspiring immigrants come to Canada. What we're also launching shortly is an immigration platform for Canadian tech companies, allowing them to be matched with foreign developers, maybe like some of yourselves, so that they can facilitate recruiting, hiring, and sponsoring foreign workers to bring them into Canada. I've been practicing Canadian immigration law for the last 5 years, and so I'll be talking in the second half about the immigration portion. Our first guest for today is Alina. She is the talent acquisition specialist at Spare Labs. Alina, I see that you just turned on your video. I want to firstly say thank you very much for taking some time on what was a snowy, now a little bit less snowy afternoon in Toronto. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No worries. Thank you a lot. And it's just knowing where I am, so you're good.
Exactly. So Alina, can you just give maybe forget about Spare specifically. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Just a quick 30-second, 60-second intro, a little bit more about yourself.
Of course. So as you already know, my name is Alina, and I'm a talent acquisition specialist at Spare. However, I haven't always been here in Canada. I'm actually Brazilian. I have moved here over 3 years ago. I have been working as a talent acquisition specialist for 11 years now, really. I'm a psychologist as well, and this is basically a little bit on what I do. Right now, I live just outside of Toronto, which is why it's still snowing over here. So we're enjoying a little bit of snow, and this is a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thanks again, Alina, for joining. Gaurav says hello. Hassan said, is this webinar only for tech workers? Hassan, it will be focused more on the tech side. If you're not a tech worker, I think you'll definitely benefit from what we're going to talk about. It is a little bit more tech worker focused. The other thing I'll quickly mention is it will be recorded. And so if you're not able to stay for the whole time, a few days after today, I will send an email to all of you with a link to the recording if there's certain parts that you missed, or maybe you want to send it to a family member or a friend to check it out themselves as well. Amandeep says greetings. Alina says hi everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Charlie, we also have him in the house. Charlie, are you there? I see you've joined.
I'm here.
And
yep.
Awesome. Charlie, thanks for tuning in. Charlie is the CPO at Notary Pro. Charlie, thanks for giving us some time on a Sunday. Do you want to just give us maybe a quick personal introduction?
Sure. So my name's Charles Siegel. As Josh said, I'm the Chief Platform Officer as well as Operating Officer from Notary Pro. We are a Canadian startup that specializes in exactly what it says there, a large, broad network of notaries, as well as an online digital offering. We've kind of grown exponentially over the past year, and we are rapidly trying to grow our tech team and bring in some in-house development talent. Previous to this, I was a innovations manager and director for Procter & Gamble. I was then a senior director for a large consulting firm before I started my own IT business, and that's how I ended up linking up with the Notary Pro guys and really pushing this business. And then way back before that, I was an IT and technical recruiter. So I've kind of seen that full spectrum, and I'm really excited to answer questions that people might have on that, and both from the point of view of what's looked for when it comes to looking for top IT talent in a growing and lucrative business, as well as what it's like from the Canadian market standpoint to try and get those talent to come here. So I'm really excited to be here, and I really thank you, Josh, for letting us come and talk a little bit about our business.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Charlie. I just want to give a shout out to the chat. So Nawaz says, hi, Josh and Alina, good morning. Guan says, hello, good morning, everyone. Carlos, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have over 80 people live right now. So let's keep rolling while everyone's here, while everyone's excited. So we're going to start with Spare. So Alina, I'm going to jump back to you. And what we want to talk about now for the next few minutes is, firstly, can you tell us a little bit more about Spare? I almost thought about doing a little bit of an intro for the company, but as many times as I read the homepage, some of the tech stuff, with how the tech works and how it relates in this case to transportation is super interesting. I figure it's better we let it come from the horse's mouth. So if you maybe want to just introduce Spare and talk a little bit more about what you guys are focused on right now.
Of course. So Spare is a company that is a software as a service company, and we also work with mobility or transportation. So we call ourselves mobility as a service because of that. And our goal is to make transportation more efficient, but not just that, also make transportation more inclusive and more sustainable for multiple communities all around the world. And the way we do this is working with either other businesses or the public sector, like transit agencies and government entities. And we provide them with our software. We don't build a new one for each new customer. We have our own software, and it's a software that enables them to optimize what they already have in terms of transportation, power a transportation system if that's what they need, or even implement new modalities of transportation like paratransit for people with disabilities or mobilities impairments. We also work with ride-hailing, on-demand transportation, microtransit, and so on. We can implement just one or a couple of them or mix and match all of them. It's really up to our customer and what they need, basically. Our platform is highly customizable because when it comes to transportation, it's not one of those cases in which one solution fits all. Right now, we have services running, of course, here in Canada, lots of services running in the United States, but also in different countries in Europe, in Japan, and others here and there all over the world. So this is a little bit on what we do. Since I understand we probably have lots of developers and tech people over here, the stack that we work with is basically TypeScript, Node for the backend, React and React Native, We work with Google Cloud Platform and Postgres as part of our stack. So this is a little bit about us. I hope I wasn't very thorough on that.
No, that was great, Alina. I tried to type out some of the tech stack. I also linked to sparelabs.com in the chat. The other thing I'll mention for all of our attendees is if you have questions for Alina or Charlie, you can put them in the Q&A tab. So there is a specific Q&A tab in Zoom. And the reason we love this is I can track all the questions, right? It doesn't fly up and down with chat. And you can also thumbs up different questions. So if you open up the Q&A tab, you have a question, feel free to stick it right in there. If you see a question that you would really like answered, make sure to thumbs up those questions. They'll be pushed to the top and we'll get to those sooner rather than later. So Alina, can we talk a little bit about the culture at the company? What's it like? I know there, especially with COVID, might be a little bit more remote than normal. Maybe number one, it's interesting to hear how has the company shifted during COVID? Is it mostly remote? Is it hybrid? And can you talk, a little bit about what is the culture like at Spare?
Perfect, sure. We were born in Vancouver, but as you can notice, I'm not based in Vancouver, so we are a remote company. We still have an office over there for any employees who are still in Vancouver, and if they want to and when they want to go to the office, they can. However, we hire people all over Canada, and for people from other countries, we do provide sponsorship for them to come to Canada and work with us from here. Ever since the beginning of COVID, we decided that going remote was the thing for us, especially as throughout 2020, we have doubled in size, same for 2021, and the goal is doubling again in size this year as we just got our Series A funding. So we are very excited. We just got $80 million. So we are really growing this year. A little bit about our culture. Even though we are in growth spurt, we are very data-centered kind of company. So we focus a lot on the data that we have from our customers and business before we make decisions. We have our feet very much on the ground, which is good as we grow so we can keep the culture going. We do value a lot feedback inside of the company, and that's not just top to bottom, but also the other way around. We provide feedback all around the company, even for our C-levels, co-founders, and so on. They are very transparent with us about everything that's going on in the company, which really makes me feel excited about being involved in things. Before the Series A funding, we already knew that was coming inside the company because we have been following all the steps about the funding and so on. So it was really not a huge news for us when we got it. So that was also nice. And another thing that is very important is most, if not all people in the company, they are very passionate about making a positive impact in the world. We understand that what we're doing, it's just transportation. No, transportation enables people to have access to health facilities, to be able to go out and study, or to be able to, work and so on. So all of those things are very important for us, and being passionate about how shifting the way people have been thinking about transportation all these years is important for communities around the world. And this is something that we value a lot. And more as we learn about transportation, it excites us more. So this is a little bit about our culture.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Alina. I want to add a quick note because I'm looking in the Q&A tab. So just a couple notes for our attendees. First of all, I just linked to the Spare Labs careers page. So you can check that out. I'm going to skip over questions. We're getting a lot of questions of, do you hire this? Do you hire that? If you're interested in certain roles, you can check out the careers page and just see if they have openings for the positions that you're interested in. The other question I want to quickly answer is, the companies that Visto brings on for these webinars, in this case, Spare and Notary Pro, these are companies that are willing to sponsor employees from outside Canada and bring them in. That's why we bring them onto these webinars, to highlight to all of you awesome folks. So anyone who's asking, do you sponsor foreign workers? These companies are happy to sponsor foreign workers. That's why we bring them on. And then the other thing I'll mention is, if you're interested in any opportunities of coming to Canada, whether it be through Spare, through Notary Pro, or other companies that we work with, you can sign up at the link that I just put in. It is our database. It's totally free to sign up for. We don't charge our developers a single thing, and we will look to try and make matches for interviews in general, whether it be tomorrow or 6 or 12 months from now. So Alina, thank you very much for that. Can you talk specifically about, maybe, I know Spare has just raised a huge round and you're hiring for a whole whack of roles. Maybe pick kind of like the top 2 or 3 tech roles that are most dire, and maybe just a little bit about what you look for in candidates when you're reviewing resumes, when you're going through interviews, anything that can give people a little bit of an edge when submitting an application.
Of course. The main roles that we are looking for right now are for engineering manager, staff software engineer, and senior software engineer, basically. So how do those jobs correlate to each other? So the manager is the person that has a background in development, but has been focusing on managing people, having one-on-ones, career conversations, connect with other teams inside of the company in a strategic manner, just to make sure that all those strategic things are being transported into tech and into plans for things to come into fruition. So that's for the engineering manager role. We're really looking for someone who has that background as an engineer, but who also is interested and has some experience already managing people. When it comes to the staff software engineer, this is one of the most senior positions in our company when it comes to an individual contributor. It's at the same level as the manager, but it's still an individual contributor. So this person is more of a specialist. They don't manage people. However, we're looking for someone who has very strong experience as a developer, perhaps leaning towards front-end and mobile. So this is something that we are looking for. This person doesn't have to be working with our stack specifically, but must be willing to work with it in the future so they can ramp up and work with us on it. As for the senior software engineer, it's a little bit similar to what we have right now for the staff position, but it's basically someone who doesn't have that experience integrating things strategically in the company and so on. This person will be more focused on specific parts of the product. Again, for this position, we would love to bring someone in who is either full stack or has some experience leaning towards front end and some mobile experience as well. Again, we're not picky about the stack, as long as this person is willing to work with the one that we have right now. And a couple of things that we do pay attention to: your technical skills. So this is something we focus quite a lot in our selection process. So be expected to be working on some exercises with our engineers and so on. The goal is not to be tricky or too difficult. That's not the goal. It's basically to understand how you would be working together with our engineers. And this is the most part that we'll be focusing on. So this is a little bit about the main roles that we're hiring for.
Awesome. And Alina, I just want to bring up a couple good questions here that we have from the chat. So I'm going to combine a question from Vikram and Kartik, who are basically asking, what is the interview process like? How many rounds of interviews are they typically? Kind of like some of the, you alluded to some of the criteria, but yeah, how many rounds of interviews, and what does the kind of start to finish process look like?
Good question. So first of all, we should have one interview with me, which is a little bit shorter, more behavioral focus. I'll always ask about the background and so on. After that, we are going to move to a code challenge, which is done online, and candidates would be able to do that from their own home, like they won't be live with anyone in camera. And after that, we do have 2 additional interviews. The first one is a technical interview in which they will be prompted with a technical problem, and we'll be solving that with one of our software engineers, one of the senior members of our team. That usually takes within 45 minutes to 1 hour or so. If things go well, they do proceed to the final interview, which is a little bit longer, and it has a technical portion and a behavioral portion. And basically this person, the candidate, will be able to meet different people from the team in this final interview, work on a different problem, probably more focused on the kinds of experiences that they have. And for the behavioral portion, they will usually talk to either our engineering manager or our CTO. And of course, we are always answering any questions throughout the process. We love candidates who ask us questions and who try to understand how their life would be at Spare if they join us. So this is also a possibility. At the end of the process, we do run a round of reference check, but we do that online, so it's a little bit easier for everyone involved. So this is what they should be expecting.
Awesome. That's great information. I have some other good questions popping up, guys. I'm going to hold on to them until after we talk to Charlie so I can actually ask both Alina and Charlie. So Alina, I want to say thank you very much for providing more details. If you don't mind hanging around for about another 5-10 minutes, I want to do a quick chat with Charlie, and then some of these good questions I actually want to ask to both of you, if that's okay.
Great.
Awesome. So let's bring up Charlie from Notary Pro. As soon as I stop talking, I'll also post a link to the Notary Pro website in the chat so that people can take a look. Charlie, can you give us a little bit more of an intro and a background about Notary Pro as a company first?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Notary Pro is like all great companies, started by a lawyer who didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. I say that because that's Josh's story as well. And so Notary Pro was started by an individual named Robert Omley, who's a practicing lawyer who noticed that the concept of notarizing documents is actually quite foreign, yet quite needed to the majority of people out there. And then that could be applied to a broad range of legal matters and simple legal services, which is kind of where we're headed. And so he started offering the services from his home, and then he found a few notaries kind of near himself, near Ottawa and in Toronto. Josh was actually one of them at one point, or still is, I think.
Still is,
yeah, there you go. And so it became a little bit of a gig-based work for lawyers to kind of boost their income, grow a network. And then it brought on two investors, one of which was myself, who came in and said, you know, this could become a global juggernaut in the legal space. And that's really what we're headed to do. And so we built an online solution, which is called our remote online notary platform. It's a proprietary solution which allows notaries to offer their service online as well. We have an in-person network of over 150 different notaries, and it's my job to basically embed technology as the driver for our overall service model. So Josh just posted the website in the chat, and I'll ask him to send out my email after this, which is quite simple. It's just charlie@notarypro.ca. And we are hiring right now for multiple full stack developer positions within our to help with our .NET and scheduling app, as well as multiple as well as a product manager role and some web marketing roles. So that's kind of where we're focused now. We had 12 times revenue last year, and we're looking to at least get 5 times revenue this year, and we're already on track. So to give you an idea, in a given week, we're responsible for notarizing between around 600 to 800 documents, and that keeps rising. So we're hoping to do that and grow our embedded technology and keep rolling. So I'll stop talking for a second. I'll let Josh ask the question.
Yeah, I'll quickly make a note here. I've been working as a notary for Notary Pro for, I think, going on 3 or 4 years now. So obviously my main gig being immigration law, and then I do notarizing documents on the side through Notary Pro's marketplace. So I've known Charlie and Rob, the CEO, for about 4 years now. And it's a great company. It's a great company, and I really enjoy working with them and for them. Let's talk a little bit more, Charlie, about the company culture. How are things looking right now in Ottawa? Is it a fully remote team? What type of team are you looking for?
That's a great question. So to give you some perspective, I came into the company with my investment right around March 2020. So if you kind of do some math there, you'll notice that was just as the pandemic set in. And we are a completely remote company at the moment. Now, we are looking to build our tech team, what I like to call semi-remote, so in a relatively similar time zone and area. And it is of our to our advantage to have them within Canada at the moment. But to give you some perspective, our CEO is in Whitby, which is just outside of Toronto. I'm out of Ottawa. Our chief marketing officer shares an office with me in Ottawa. Our support team are spread out in the GTA area. Our developers that we currently have are out in BC, as well as we probably didn't bring someone on from Brazil, as well as some within the Toronto area. And then we have notaries across the country. So to say we're a remote company is an understatement. We are 100% a remote company, which comes with its challenges, as I'm sure Alina could tell you. But it also comes with its advantages in that, you essentially you have to work hard to keep your culture. And our culture is one of transparency. It's one of honesty, support, and if you ask me, empathy. I think we're in a time right now where everyone needs a little bit of a break. And if you trust the individuals you're working with, then you have a much better time. And I think that those who work with us will tell you that as well. I can tell you a quick story. In our internal support team, there's an individual, she worked with us for a bit. She decided to go take another role. After 3 weeks, she's like, I need to come back because, she had a young daughter. Her daughter got sick. The other role said, well, you still got to work and go to work. And that's not how we work here. If people need to focus on their family, we allow them. And we are a very family-oriented company, whatever your family may be. And that's mostly because between myself and the CEO, there are 7 children combined. So we do recognize what it's like to have a family as well. So yeah, I would say our culture is one of empathy, understanding, but also hyper-competitive in growth. That doesn't mean we don't want to win. We like winning. We strive to win, but we want to do so in a moral way.
Awesome. That is great, Charlie. Last question here is, can you go a little bit deeper on the technical roles? Maybe touch, I think you alluded to it briefly, but can you go deeper into the tech stack and specifically what you're looking for?
So we currently have a technical stack that involves a mixture of off-the-shelf and proprietary tool sets. We built a proprietary remote online notary platform that uses WebRT, Twilio, as well as a .NET and its Azure-based app in order to deliver our kind of patented remote online notary experience. In that, we have different modules that you can slide in different proprietary signing technologies. We work with SignNow, DocuSign, a few proprietary out of Ottawa and Canada. I see a question about cyber and security. Yep, we're heading that zone right now, Paramjeet, so please let me know about yourself. And we're very much a Microsoft shop. On the front end, we are a React front end. We started with boilerplate, but it's very much less so. And our website is, how can I put this? A Frankenstein WordPress. Oh, and that's moved out of that zone. And we are quickly looking for a full redesign. So really what the actual developer role is because we're a moving and emerging company, I don't hire based on your technical stack capability. And I'll go into the interview process. We hire based on your ability to solve problems and learn new technologies. I hire engineers. I hire people who, if someone comes to me and says, I am 100% just a .NET only ASP, I say, that's great. It's not going to work. Now, we're in that environment, but we might not be in 6 months because this is the startup phase. We are changing and we are pivoting. So we hire people who can solve problems, who have a quite strong technical aptitude to do so, and who enjoy learning new technologies, because that's what we have to do in order to stay on top. So we're also looking for product management, because right now I'm providing the product management and I can barely manage myself to get dressed in the morning. So I want to make sure that we get someone in there who can actually manage the product as it grows and takes on new white label and legal services capabilities. And we're also looking on the online and web marketing standpoint. I think the reason why we've been able to dominate the Canadian landscape and soon to be the global landscape is because of our ability to own organic traffic.
Got it. That is great to hear, Charlie. Lastly, do you have 1 or 2 tips for those who might be reaching out to you by email, or if they're applying through the Visto database, which I just linked in the chat? What are 1 or 2, maybe not necessarily tech specific, what do you look for in candidates? What's 1 or 2 things that can make someone stand out?
Yeah, I think what I look for in candidates is that zest for learning and something that exemplifies, that you are continually trying to learn new areas. And new doesn't mean modern, by the way. I don't need to know that you're learning the newest and most modern technology out there. When you're trying to expand your horizon, that you have a technical dedication around kind of adding more tools to your tool belt in that, and problem solving. And I also I think communication skill and independence is a big one. We are a smaller team. We are a small team that services a very large community. Remember, within the next month, we're going to have over 200 separate lawyers on our in-person network payroll. And and in-person networks, sorry, contractor list. And so, you know, they're not the easiest crowd to manage. And so we need people who could be independent and pivot and work quickly. So that's really what we're looking for. So the ability to communicate and be concise and be direct in your communications, it will be critical to your role. Sorry if I keep sticking my head up. I have kids playing on the other side of the door. So there's a chance someone's going to run in here at any point.
No problem.
Does that answer your question, Josh?
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. And I'm sure the attendees are finding it helpful. Awesome. Let's bring Alina back. And Charlie and Alina, I'd love to ask you guys just a couple more questions that are coming in from the attendees before I let you get back to your Sunday. Sure. This question I really like from, I think it's pronounced Jello. I apologize if any of us are mispronouncing some names. What are the main issues blocking a startup from hiring overseas? Maybe another way to put it too is, what makes it a little bit more difficult to overcome the foreign hiring as opposed to domestic for you, Charlie?
I think that, to be honest, we're a growing company who's just, I mean, so I look at Alina, her company, they just secured their investment round. They have the support there. We're just securing our investment round right now, and we actually might not do it because we're growing fast enough without it. So we don't have as much of the time to learn the logistics of bringing someone in overseas. And that's where we go to Visto to be. That's why I'm sitting here, because Visto's giving me that service. It's brilliant. So that's the biggest one. The second one is the ability to really validate experience. And so that's why part of our process is, you know, I could talk with you as much as I want. I'm going to put you in front of my VP engineering in one of my other businesses, and they're going to give you some technical facts. Because experience is great, education is great, but I need to see that you have the capability to problem solve quickly and to tell me what you do and don't know. And I think, you know, you talk about like I talk about honesty. Anyone who comes in here and says that they can do anything and knows everything, I immediately discount because you don't. So it's really that validation piece and the logistical piece. Visto has handled the logistical piece. It's phenomenal service. And now the validation piece, we are very rapid. As you can tell, I'm a hyper person. We are right to the point on that. And if we can validate experience, then it's now that dating before married side of things. So we're going to be sponsoring while dating. And if we find during that dating period, which means the initial contacting or initial employment that's not working out, we're going to come very forthright. So it's understanding if that match is there early on. I think those are the three biggest pieces, and I'm hoping we have a good strategy to address that. I mean, Alina, what do you think?
Yeah, Alina,
I second that.
Yep.
Yeah, I second that. I think the logistic part is definitely a tricky one, but again, we have Visto here, so they can handle that for us, not a problem. Besides that, I think a couple of things that may become maybe a little bit more practical for candidates interviewing for international companies as well. Sometimes translating what you have been doing in a different country that has a different culture, in a different type of environment, in a different type of company can be tricky for you to do when interviewing for an international company, either in Canada or in the United States or in Europe. It can be a little bit tricky just because you're not used on how to do things. I can say because I'm Brazilian and I know how much developers in Brazil are very generalist, and here in Canada, they are very specialist, for example. Or sometimes when you're interviewing for an international company, you just mention the name of the company that you work for, and it's a great company in your country, but perhaps the people interviewing you never heard of it before. So there are a couple of things when it comes to communication that you have to adapt. And it's not about English skills, for example, but communicating what you have been doing, explaining things a little bit more. And that doesn't mean being lengthy on your explanations, but just bringing the juicy details that sometimes it's obvious in your own country, but that might not be for a different country. So I think those are the main things that I encounter in the selection process. When it comes to after the selection process, I honestly don't think that are tricky things. I value diversity, whether are from different people coming from different country and working with us. That only makes us stronger. So I honestly think that the main tricky parts of hiring overseas is related to the logistics and the selection process in itself. And after that, not much of a problem, really.
Awesome. That's great information. Two more quick questions I wanted to ask. Number one is from Hassan, who's asking, are you guys only looking for experienced hires, or are there any kind of internship opportunities? And I also wanted to highlight what Oliver asks, which is, what is your pay policy with regard to foreign workers or when you are bringing in foreign talent? Alina, maybe you want to start on this one and then we'll jump back.
Of course. So when it comes to paying policies, we are going to be paying you according to our own salary structure. We won't make a distinction based on where you are. And I mean, you're going to be with us pretty soon. So that's basically it. Let me see what else. What was the first part of the question, Josh?
Any internship opportunities?
Good. Not specifically for people coming abroad, because we're looking for people who are in universities here in Canada. So unfortunately, that's one of the job positions that we can't hire people from overseas right now.
Got it. Thanks for that, Alina. Charlie, do you want to talk about any internship opportunities and or the pay structure?
So yeah, we are considering interns themselves. We tend, like Alina, to be partnered with the local universities. However, if you have a structure that allows you to do internships as an international student, let me know. So, you know, we can hire people from outside Canada. We can, you know, the one beauty about being a nimble organization is you're looking at the decision maker. So if I see the right person that comes out that says, I need to do an internship for 6 months, here's my skill set, and you can market yourself correctly, then yeah, I will definitely consider it. The other side of it with pay scales, our pay scales are not geographic specific, period. However, if we're hiring someone in a full-time role, we're looking to bring you to Canada. That's just the policy that we're within right now. It's for many different reasons, makes our life a lot easier, and we're not looking to launch a global internal operations at the moment.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Charlie. Guys, yeah, just to confirm again, these are companies that are willing to sponsor you from abroad, but in some respects will have you start working remotely while they work for the work permit, while they wait for the work permit process to be complete, and or might just hire remotely. So Amandeep, maybe just keep that in mind. But both companies are here and pushing and you know, promoting their brands because they are more than happy to sponsor foreign workers and bring them in from outside of the country. All right, folks. This has been awesome in terms of the employment side. I want to give a big thank you to Charlie and Alina for coming on, spending almost 40 minutes of their Sunday with us. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to say a quick goodbye, and then we're going to shift over to the immigration side. So Charlie, Alina, thank you both for coming on. Any last words to the audience?
All I'll say is, you know, I see a lot of great questions. I see a lot of very enthusiastic people on this. Please reach out, Charlie at notarypro.ca. NotaryPro is my focus right now. I also am a serial entrepreneur, so I have my fingers in 4 businesses at the moment. I saw someone in there talk about SAP and ERP expertise. I have a business in that area. So please do reach out in that area. And I Visto, to be honest, I'm not just saying this, but I really feel that Visto has hit on a real need on getting rid of a lot of the headaches and things of getting talented people like yourselves here. So work closely with them, because we're just 2 of many who are looking for people like yourself to come make our country better and to come make our companies better. So thanks again for the opportunity, Josh.
Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. Alina, any last words?
Thanks a lot for allowing me to be over here and talking and blabbling a little bit about our company and what we have been doing so far. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to meeting more people that are interested in working with us as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Alina. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Right now, I'm going to drop. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Alina. Take care, guys. Awesome. And Gaurav says, thanks, Charlie and Alina. Kardakea says, thanks, Charlie. Awesome. Amandeep, IRCC's put a hold for the next 6 months on PR applications. So we're actually going to shift focus now to immigration. IRCC is still processing work permits, right? That's what, that's my specialty, right? They are still processing work permits. We still are having tech work permits approved every month. Anyways, that's what we're going to talk about now. So I'm going to shift over here for just a minute. What we're going to do now is I'm going to spend about 5-10 minutes talking about the immigration side. And then I'll take a few more of your questions on the immigration space. Some of these questions that were asked are a little bit more immigration focused. So for example, Sajal asked a really good question, but it was more about immigration. So I'm going to handle that. If you guys have immigration related questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A tab. But first, let me give you a quick 5-10 minutes to give you the basics, just to make sure I'm not already answering your question. And then if you have any questions, feel free. We're hopefully going to be wrapping up in about the 20-minute mark, right on the end of the hour. I want to respect everybody's time, especially on a Sunday. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about specifically related to tech workers, because what Visto really does here, and the link that I've been sending in the chat, is to the Visto database, right? And what this is we have slowly started to working with more and more companies like Spare, like Notary Pro, who are specifically willing and able to interview and sponsor tech workers to bring them to Canada. So what we have done is built out a platform that automates the Global Talent Stream program. This is the work permit that was specifically created in 2017 to do an expedited work permit process for tech workers only. Why? Because there's such a tech worker shortage in Canada, the government created this program to make it easier for tech companies to grow their teams. So this is the work permit that we focus on specifically. And as Charlie alluded to, by signing up to the database, not only does it not cost you $1, but as we continue to bring on more and more companies, we can highlight your profile if you're a good match for the different roles that our clients are looking to interview with. And if they decide to hire you, we would facilitate the Global Talent Stream application. Now, in this case, this is an expedited closed work permit. What this means is, if you were to be sponsored by a tech company through the Global Talent Stream, a closed work permit allows you to come to Canada for up to 2 years and work specifically for that company. So closed means that it is restricted to the company that is sponsoring you for up to the 2 years. You're of course free to try and, if you want, you can try to get jobs with other companies, but they would have to re-sponsor you for a brand new work permit. But the closed work permit allows you to come work for that company for up to 2 years in Canada. That can also be renewed at the end of the 2 years. And or you can leverage this closed work permit to getting permanent residence, which I'll talk about in just a minute here. Now, what do you need for the Global Talent Stream? The number one key is you need a company willing to sponsor you, right? So as a tech worker, you can't simply apply for the Global Talent Stream out of the blue, right? The first step of the Global Talent Stream is actually what's called an LMIA application, Labor Market Impact Assessment, submitted on behalf of the company sponsoring you. So first and foremost, you need a company willing to sponsor you. That's why we try our matchmaking service to help facilitate that. And from there, you would need a variety of documents to prepare your work permit application. Right? Now, if you're working with a company like Visto or another legal team, they would hopefully help you prepare, but this would be a combination of filling out Immigration Canada forms, collecting documents like your resume, copies of degrees, work experience letters, potentially, depending on what country you're coming from, medical exams or police background checks to prepare and complete your work permit application. Again, the number one key, and this is what Visto is kind of being built around right now, is finding that job offer from the Canadian company willing to sponsor you. All right. Now, secondly, what I wanted to talk about is permanent residence, right? Because I think it's fair to say that most of you, number one, want to come to Canada and would love a work permit, but eventually you probably want to settle in Canada and get something like permanent residence and maybe down the road citizenship. The primary permanent residence program for skilled workers, and in this case, that's facilitated very well by the Global Talent Stream, is a program called Express Entry. And part of this reason is that you can actually benefit, because this is an online points-based immigration program. You get bonus points by having a Global Talent Stream work permit. So just receiving your work permit and having it approved gives you bonus points to make Express Entry a little bit easier. Now, as some of you have alluded to, and we'll get into these details, especially as these questions come up, guys, I'll make a note. If you have questions, please add them to the Q&A tab. I won't be prioritizing questions in the chat, right? I'll be prioritizing questions in the Q&A tab, especially because you can then upvote your favorite questions, and those will get pushed to the top. So In terms of express entry, you'll benefit from bonus points. We see here that there is express entry used to be a 4 to 6 month process. COVID has really affected express entry and permanent residence in general in a wide variety of matters, mainly being that Immigration Canada has prioritized people inside Canada. So express entry used to be a program where you could actually apply and get invited to apply for permanent residence from outside of the country. But for the last year or longer, Immigration Canada has kind of put that on hold, prioritizing those inside Canada. Again, this is another reason why getting a work permit first is such a good option. It gets you into the country, gets your new life, settled in Canada, and then it gives you a huge advantage when applying for permanent residence. Now, moving on, again, this is a promising offer if you really have one of two things. If you're outside of Canada and have a graduate degree, it used to make applying through express entry a little bit easier because you would have a higher score. Unfortunately, again, because of COVID, being outside of Canada, express entry is not a very good option right now. It might be down the road, but is not a great option for right now because they're simply not inviting people from outside of the country. But secondly, if you can get that Canadian job offer, if you can get that work permit and come into Canada and either get the bonus points or go through something like a PNP, it can be a really good option. Now, what you're going to need for express entry is you can actually create an express entry profile if you're eligible right now. It doesn't cost you anything. But again, I'll give the caveat of if you're outside of Canada, it's going to probably be quite some time before they start inviting people from outside of the country to actually apply. What you would need to create a profile if you're interested is, number one, a language exam. So you have to complete, if you're an English speaker, either the IELTS or the CELPIP. They also have 2 French options if you're a French speaker. And secondly, you're going to need what's called an ECA, an Educational Credential Assessment. This is basically a report that tells you what your degree from outside of Canada is equivalent to inside Canada to give you your final score. So again, if you want to create an express entry profile, number one, I'll say it will be very tough for the next little while if you're outside of Canada. But if you want to get started, it doesn't cost anything other than the cost of writing the language exam and getting your ECA. All right, so last but not least, I want to quickly, again, just highlight Visto for 2 reasons. Number one, if you are a tech worker outside Canada looking to try and land a job, you can sign up for free for our database. I'm linking it once more. The caveat I'm going to give here is we are still early on in this matchmaking process, right? So we are working now with more than a handful of companies. But what happens is we take profiles that fit the job description of companies, and we will highlight your profile if it matches the requirements of the companies. The companies then review your profile, they'll review your LinkedIn, they'll review your resume, and they'll let us know if they want to interview you. If they do, we will reach out to you. So for some of you, based on your profile or based on your years of experience or based on your tech stack, may not hear from us very quickly, right? If it's not a good match for the companies we're working with right now. But your profile will stay in our database. And if ever down the road, a company is looking for that type of role or profile, we will do our best to do the matching. So I just want to set expectations, right? I don't want to promise everybody in here a job or an interview overnight, but hopefully by signing up, you have nothing to lose. It'll take you about 5 minutes to fill out the form. And we are doing our best on the back end to bring in as many companies as we can and push as many of your profiles to them as possible. Now, secondly, if you're also just interested in learning about immigration in general, if you go to Visto.ai, you can create a free account there to use our free resources to learn about express entry, how to calculate your score, eligibility, or things like the study permit, right? Maybe you're not able to land a job, but you're interested in coming to Canada on a study permit, which allows you to then stay and work in Canada and work your way towards a work permit and PR. So if you want to learn about those options, you can do that as well. So I have the link in the chat. Now what I'm going to do is take a sip of water, and I'm going to get to our immigration questions in the Q&A tab, hopefully provide as much value as we can. The other thing by signing up is I usually try to run these webinars every 1 or 2 months to bring on new companies so we can get new advice from different companies. So I will make sure to send out an email whenever we start doing additional webinars. Okay, all of these accounts that I've just mentioned, Shubham, are free. So signing up to the database, totally free. We don't charge anything. Making an account on Visto.ai, totally free. And there's a ton of guides on express entry, study permit. You can learn the basics. And then we do have paid services if you need them. So if you want to work one-on-one with lawyers, then that's totally optional, but you can also book those services inside the portal as well. Okay, let's get to some immigration related questions here.